Started fishing in Ohio when I was a kid. My dad wasn't really a fisherman, so he was more of a hunter, small game hunter. He hunted squirrels. But I remember the first fish I caught was in the Marblehead Quarry. It was a perch on a plastic baseball bat with a bobber and piece of monofilament. And I was like freaking psyched after I caught that. And then, you know, the obsession came, especially with night fishing as I got a little older, you know, 8, 9, 10 years old. I used to go out to my aunt's house. She lived out in Oak Harbor, Ohio, and she lived on the Little Portage River. And, you know, it's just a dirty little river. And me, my cousin Mike and Danny, we would pitch up a tent and make a fire all night. They were a little bit older, so they could control me a little bit. So we'd pitch up, we'd make this big fire, and we'd fish night after night, all day and all night. When we left I remember leaving the rods, we would put rocks on top of the rods. You know, if we had, like, we would run out of worms. So we had to go find worms somewhere, but she lived way out in the country. You know, finding worms was difficult. So we'd find anything, chicken, you know, hot dogs, whatever it was. But while we did that, we put the rocks on the rods and left them there. We'd come back, you know, pull the rods in, there'd be a catfish or a bullhead, you know, on it. And we built this big live well. It was about this big, about that high. We stuck all the catfish in there and all the bullhead, and until we filled it up. And we'd fish all night long. One guy would watch the rods, the other guy would fish all night long, all day long. And we do that for like a weekend, sometimes more. I think I was 13. I moved from Ohio to Queens. My parents were divorced. My mother met my stepfather, was a cop in the city. Next thing you know, I'm in Jamaica. My stepfather, a cop in the city, leaves me on the bridge in the middle of the night in Queens with a bunker. I had bunker. I mean bunker like this. I mean, in Ohio we're using friggin' dew worms. You know what I mean? So with a bunker with this freaking big rod on the top of a bridge, I'm fishing for striped bass. You know, I didn't even know what a striped bass was. I never caught anything. And then we moved to Bayville, Long Island. And then I met my next door neighbor, Rod. And the first night we went to the Oyster Bay Brickyards. My first night of striper fishing, really. This was, had to be, I think it was 1979. Might have been 78, but I think it was 79. And we went to the Brickyards. We were drifting worms along grass lines on the outgoing tide. We had 32 bass that night. And it was the first time I really held a striper. I was like, wow, that's a pretty fish. It's really pretty. And then I started surf fishing. I didn't even know I was surf fishing. I would go, my parents let me go down even at night in Bayville, you know, and I had my little 7-foot rod and Rebel. That's all I would use as a Rebel. Oh, this would catch anything, freaking Rebel. And so then I just started surf fishing, and I didn't even know. I was reading the fishermen. Wow, these people are catching stripers. And then I got my car, and then it was off to Montauk when I was 16. That was, I guess, 82. I think I started fishing at Montauk 82. First year of Montauk, I didn't catch anything. Nothing. Not one fish. And then I kept on fishing. You know where I was fishing? I was fishing Turtles Cove. You know, at the pillbox. And I kept on fishing outgoing tide, because if you look at the light, you would think, I mean, if you haven't been there before, you would think the outgoing tide moves around the light, right? And everything's going to dump into that cove. That's not the case, because some guy finally told me after a year of not catching anything, you got to fish here on the incoming, because on the incoming it wraps around browns and goes into turtles and rips out there. So then I started fishing the incoming, and I started to catch fish. So, and then I was freaking obsessed with Montauk ever since. I still am.